The sports world has gone dark. From major club and international football to the golf and tennis tours, COVID-19 has decimated the sporting calendar. We need to get ready for a sportless landscape for longer than initially hoped after world sporting bodies recommended all events with 50 or more people for the next 8 weeks be avoided. Signs point to it being even longer than that. Coronavirus has forced us to press the pause button in sports. Let's take a look at some of the events that have been hit by the coronavirus over the last few days, starting with March 16th. March 16th, the first event that's been hit, all football and cricket in South Africa has been cancelled, followed by baseball that's been hit. The start of the major league in baseball has been delayed. These are events that have taken place on the 16th of March. Cricket, Zimbabwe and Ireland both postponing their 6-match men's series. That's not all. Followed by football, where the Bundesliga, that's Bundesliga and the Bundesliga 2, both the editions, both the leagues being suspended until April 3rd. Moving to the next slide, where even rugby union, the European Rugby Union, has suspended everything that rugby season was supposed to take place over this particular day. Now when you go to March 15th, what's happened on March 15th? March 15th, the boxing Olympic qualifiers in London moved behind closed doors. There's still not clarity whether this event is going to take place or not. Moving ahead to cycling, where the International Cycling Union has suspended all events that are associated with cycling. The International Cycling Union, that's the ICU, stating that all events stand suspended. Moving on to the next discipline, football, Mexico's Liga, that's the MX, that's been suspended. So things getting out of hand. Now when you move to burning some rubber, Formula One, they're deciding that Ferrari is shutting down the production of Formula One there as of 15th of March. Moving ahead to football, the Brazilian Football Confederation suspending all football competitions there in Brazil. If you come, now shifting to March 14th, where things slowly were picking up, but things by that time, athletics deciding that the Edinburgh Marathon needed to be postponed to a date that's still not known. When you look at football, friendlies between Germany and Italy getting cancelled. Triathlon, the International Triathlon Union, they're suspending all competitions related to triathlon. Moving to March 13th, we're moving down from March 16th to March 11th. March 13th, athletics decided that the London Marathon is postponed. Moving ahead to badminton, where the BWF decided that all World Tour events stand suspended. When you come to cricket, the England's Test series, that's against Sri Lanka, stood postponed. Cricket, India too faced the brunt of coronavirus. India's one-day international series against South Africa got postponed. That's not all. India's cricketainment, IPL start delayed. The decision was taken from 29th of March when it was scheduled to begin. It has now been moved to 15th of April, and the franchisees seem to be a worried lot. Moving to March 13th now, Scottish football season gets postponed. It's postponed indefinitely. We don't know when we're going to see that. Talking about crisis, Chelsea's winger there, Callum Hudson, testing positive. He's not the first player to test positive, but the first player in English Premier League to test positive for coronavirus. The UEFA suspending all football competitions there, due to be played on the 17th and 18th of this month. Real Madrid all getting affected there. The Formula One, the season, the first 3 races are almost suspended. We're looking at a mid-May start to the Formula One season, where we get to see some burning of rubber, but things not getting purely in control there. Coming to 12th of March, basketball, NBA suspending all NBA games until further notice. That's the first impact that we saw, where a big league getting suspended. Football, the Commonwealth qualifiers also getting postponed. Things one after the other having a cascading effect, not only in football but also across all other genres of sport. Football, the La Liga getting suspended, 2 rounds of matches getting suspended there. When you look at the Major League Soccer, that's American soccer suspending matches for the next 30 days. So things clearly, having a spiraling effect day after day when you look at the way things transpired. Now looking at March 11th on how things happened. March 11th was the beginning of, this cascading effect when you see on sports. Argentina cancelling all their international sporting events. As a nation, they decided to cancel everything that's going to take place in the country. Football, Manchester City's EPL match with Arsenal postponed. Now when you look at it, the whole season has been postponed till the beginning of April. 11th of March, Juventus and Italian defender Daniel Ruggini testing positive, the first player from Italy to test positive, creating a spell of fear in that big Italian club Juventus, where Cristiano Ronaldo and Dybala play. Spanish Cup final that got postponed thanks to this virus and the scare of the virus taking the world of sport caught in its web there. Now, when you look at the coronavirus pandemic, it's wiped out almost most of the world's major sporting events. Dozens of international sporting events have been cancelled or postponed around the world amid an outbreak of coronavirus. BCCI suspended all domestic tournaments until further notice as a precautionary measure in the wake of the deadly coronavirus that has been spreading in the country and worldwide at a rapid pace. More in this report.
The BCCI has suspended all domestic tournaments until further notice as a precautionary measure in the wake of the deadly coronavirus that has been spreading in the country and worldwide at a rapid pace. BCCI President Saurabh Ganguly said that all matches of the Irani Cup, Senior Women One-Day Knockout, Visi Trophy and all other domestic cricket have been put on hold till further notice.
The safety is most important of the players, and in the current situation with what's going around in the world and in India with the government directives, this is all we can do. We've even postponed the remaining domestic matches.
In cricket, other tournaments are affected as well. One-day international series and 3 T20 matches between Australia and New Zealand, which was scheduled to start on the 24th of March, are postponed. England's Test series against Sri Lanka is also postponed. India's one-day international series with South Africa stands postponed. Indian Premier League delayed from the 29th of March until the 15th of April. In athletics, London Marathon scheduled for the 26th of April is also postponed and rearranged for the 4th of October. Along with that, Manchester Marathon, which was scheduled for the 5th of April, is also postponed. In badminton, all BWF World Tour and other BWF tournaments are suspended from the 16th of March until the 12th of April. In football, the Football Association, Premier League, EFL and Barclays FA Women's Super League and FA Women's Championship collectively agree to postpone the professional game in England until the 3rd of April at the earliest. The Scottish football season is postponed as well. Domestic football at all levels is also suspended in Wales until at least 4th of April due to coronavirus. UEFA has also postponed next week's Champions League and Europa League fixtures. The rapid spread of coronavirus is causing cancellations and delays to sporting events around the world. Other major sporting events such as Golf's Masters, cycling, rugby, Grand are also being postponed. Sports Desk, DD India.
So what could be the solution to this problem? How will it have an impact on the finances and the business models of teams and franchisees? How will players find the going if they are to play in empty stadiums, if the need arises, or bring the necessary change in gear to tackle or to take precautions? How will the games recover from this hiatus? Question seems to increase with every passing day. Over the next 30 minutes, we have three distinguished gentlemen joining us in the studios to take the COVID threat on sports to discuss it. Himanshu Chaturvedi, MD, HTC Sports, joining us this evening. Shimon Sharif, former shooter India, they're joining us too. And Pranav Prakhar brings us that social media, outlook to how this coronavirus outlook has taken place to our show. All welcome, all three gentlemen to the show. Let me first begin with the opening remarks. Himanshu, how do you look at it? The world being now in that spin in the web of coronavirus, do you see a threat where things can get, further out of hand?
Well, frankly, if you ask me personally, it's more of a scare. Sports could have been used as a tool for people to fight any kind of, these viruses. But since the number of sportsmen to the general public is not as high as that. So as a sportsman, I would say that come out, fight it off, run, exercise, make yourself more fitter. I don't think the virus can actually hit you so much. But the situation isn't what we think it. But the way it is proceeding, I think it is going to be disastrous. And this is an Olympic year. And if, God forbid, if you don't have Olympics, I think the entire ecosystem of sports is going to crash because ultimately Olympic is ultimate in terms of sports. And if we have Olympics being pushed away or being cancelled, it is going to be a very, very bad impact on the entire industry of sports in times to come.
Okay, Shimon, considering, taking a player's perspective on this particular coronavirus and, players forced to stay indoors, players being forced to play matches inside empty stadiums, how much of is it a challenge for player, when you're forced to play in these kind of conditions?
Well, it is very challenging because ultimately, especially if you talk about, team events like football and sports where you have to make a contact like boxing, wrestling. So it is very challenging for such sports, but fortunately sports like where I'm from, shooting and archery, they are individual sports where you don't connect with any individual. So a shooter can easily practice on their own, but obviously it's very challenging for other sports.
Okay, Prakar, you bring that the social media angle to this whole story. When the earlier viruses or during the earlier times when these things came about, there was not much of social media presence, purely in terms of footprints that people could now connect with each other. Does the fear of this particular coronavirus, take manifold measures or manifold? Does it grow manifold considering that we've got a social media presence now? People able to touch and able to know at a click of a button about all that's happening across the globe.
Anil, you have touched a very important point here because it is dual-edged sword when you talk about social media. But by and large, social media is important. You are able to spread the message. The message which comes out maybe from Prime Minister's office or Sports Minister's office goes within hours. If I give you an example, today I talked to somebody in Kerala, Sports Authority of India, and one of the higher officials said that yes, they had this message from Sports Minister well ahead of time in the morning itself, and they were working very hard to get into it. Second is, most important is, what is happening in the world stage right now. As we talk in next couple of hours, we know the two biggest sporting organizations, Olympics and FIFA, they are sitting, having a video conference to decide where to take and what will the next step by the days, by the hours, and by the weeks, and by the months.
Himanshu, when you look at this particular, the headache of organizing these kind of events, it takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of, foot soldiers, people who are not directly linked to the leagues, but, indirectly linked to the leagues who earn their bread and butter through these sporting events. What happens to them? Now, how do you plan? When you look back, when you're handling finances, when you look back at the drawing board, how do you plan these kind of events now, since, everything seems to be in a tizzy and in a world of doubt?
Well, Anil, I think it's a very, very important point which you have touched around, because you see, events like IPL or events like Bundesliga or La Liga, or let's say for sake NBA, they're bigger sharks, and they're sort of kind of insured. So the insurance covers them to a large extent. But what happens to the smaller players which are around them? People those who are into ancillaries, people those who are sending the merchandise, people those who are volunteers. There are a number of people in the world, those workers, those who have they wait for these events to come in like IPL.
Let's now take a look at IPL and how things could turn out. The Indian Premier League season 13 is bracing against time as the initial start to the cricketing season is now being deferred till 15th of April. Who loses? What if the money-spinning hotcake IPL is cancelled? Potential losses include notional, but specifics will only emerge depending on how things pan out over the next few weeks.
Top executives from all 8 India Premier League franchisees interacted in a conference call on Monday evening. While multiple franchisees' representatives refer to the call as a stock-taking exercise, the interaction has raised a few eyebrows. After suspending the IPL till April 15th on Friday due to COVID-19 outbreak, the BCCI hierarchy had a detailed meeting with owners of all 8 teams. While the BCCI has agreed to give a weekly update to the franchisees, the con call came as a bit of a surprise for the IPL authorities. IPL 13 is under a threat and is bracing up for a loss in the wake of COVID-19. How can the losses be quantified? There are 3 possibilities. Things get better by mid-April and the 60-match tourney gets conducted by first week of June. Truncated IPL number of matches and days are reduced, but the tournament is conducted. IPL is cancelled. Option 1, the loss is minimal and all associated with the league will be immune to it. However, if option B comes into effect, loss will be high. Broadcasters have sold 90% of ad stock and will have to be recalled. The BCCI central pool of sponsors will have to be reworked. The players and the match officials will get paid pro rata. If the season 13 of IPL does not take place, everyone goes home calculating what they could have earned for this year. It will be difficult to put numbers to the losses, but everyone will be hoping against hope as the stakes are high, but nobody will spell it out. But the franchisees meeting is surely a sign that it is not all well and things are getting a bit jittery and shaky for all involved at various levels. Sports Desk, DD News.
But the challenges seem to be rising with every passing day. The franchisee is getting into a huddle. What could this mean, Himanshu? Purely the franchisee is now getting into a huddle. BCCI too fell caught with two left feet when, the franchises got into a huddle. But having said that, how difficult is it for the franchisees now? You don't know on April 15th whether we're going to see a truncated IPL, whether we're going to see an IPL that's already cancelled, or whether we're going to see a full IPL. How does that leave, people who are associated with these franchises? Because it's just not a franchisee calling the shots. There are a lot of, peripheral ancillary industries that are associated with every franchisee and BCCI per se.
If just to throw out some figures, for last 2 years, from 18 onwards, the actual profits have been started to share with the franchisee from the central revenue pool. The gate monies were coming to them, but the kind of upsurge which we had, 2,160 crores of Vivo, and then you have 3,000 crores being committed by Star coming up, giving that kind of fund. For the first time, the franchisees were having about 150 crore rupees as profit.
True.
Because it was about 250 crore rupees was the total revenue, out of which what they spent was about 27 on the team salary, there about 20 on sports management, and about 2. So about 158 is something what was the right figure.
True.
Now, out of which what we need to see is that each gate money, it's about 8 to 9 crore rupees each match as the home team gets. I think if some model can be worked out, is we've been talking that we can have a closed IPL, you don't have spectators in the stadium. Although there are versions that it's difficult to sanitize every support staff, everybody, but still the revenue loss which the franchisees or the players would get is much lesser. So the advertising money, because if we actually see the growth of Hotstar or the digital watch, the people, those who are watching, has gone into numbers so large that the spectator money to the ratio of the people, those who are watching, and also, I would like to throw a very important point here, is that it could also be a very good way of telecasting IPL and keeping people home and not letting them go out and keep out of the viruses. So they could probably sit home and enjoy, because the malls are closed, the gyms are closed, everything is closed. There could be a very good way of entertaining themselves by sitting and watching, and still the revenues. And maybe who knows that when you have stadium closed, the revenue selling, which the Star has been expecting about 1,000 crore rupees more on advertising, the so-called FCT, could probably be costlier. And the digital money could be bigger, and the IPL could still hold, because IPL is like a role model in this country. Once we had IPL, we have so many other leagues have followed them in.
Shimon, when you look at it, he talks about an IPL that's, in empty stadiums. How difficult is it for a player when, you get a wicket, you hit a 6, there is no cheer coming your way, except for, few audio-visual mediums through which, you get that feeling of joy there when you hit that, inside empty stadiums. How difficult is it for a player to, adapt to that kind of conditions when you have empty stadiums? But the valuations purely in terms of, for the broadcaster going up, since, it's going to be telecast and everybody is going to watch the action that's going to come live.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you talk about a spectator-friendly sport like cricket, the fizz goes out of the event if there are no spectators there. Obviously, every athlete or a cricketer competing, they need their crowds to cheer them up. You must have seen how Usain Bolt, when he finishes the 100-meter race, he used to go to the crowds and ask for a loud cheer. So it takes the fizz out of, and it definitely also affects the performance. If there are empty stands, you will see a much lesser performance coming out of a player.
Praka, one quick word. From a social media perspective, today's times it's not all about the game. It's all about the peripherals that are attached to the game. The fans. You've got a fan base that's created with every club. How does one manage that? Does the challenge surmount manifold enough for franchisees as well as for BCCI when it comes to, let's suppose we look at a truncated IPL with no fans there, inside empty stadiums, players play.
Anil, there are 2 points to it, but I'll take 1 point cue from Chaturvedi ji as well. First thing is truncated match, which means no and at the same time less crowd.
Okay.
If at all there is no crowd, then there is all gate money is not there.
Okay.
I have understanding that gate money is almost 20%, 30% of the total revenue that franchise make. But then that is again a questionable thing. How much money will BCCI be able to cover up? That is one thing. But most important is that once what Chaturvedi ji said, that if it is not the match stadiums are empty, which means if the stadiums are empty, which means that you have more access to social sites, you have more access to all the broadcast mediums.
Okay.
So that will give them a good revenue. They can generate a better revenue from there. But then also in Europe, there is a lot of discussion that professional cricketers, they are professionals, professional sportsmen. They don't need crowd. They are professional. That is why they have to go and perform. And for the win or the loss is not on crowd, which is gate money.
Okay, but at the end of the day, I think sponsors look for visibility, and that's why they get attracted to sports and sporting events. We'll leave that for another day. But moving ahead now to what's happening in the world of football, where Arsene Wenger and Jose Mourinho have put their old rivalries aside to help the public battle the coronavirus with 5 key tactics. The pair clashed several times during the rivalry in England, but the duo have joined forces in a video released by FIFA, which includes useful tips for those during COVID-19. Take a look.
Hello everyone. We know all that the situation with the coronavirus is a very serious one, and we need to put health first. There are 5 key tactics to tackle the coronavirus, and I urge you all to follow with discipline at all times these 5 key tactics.
Todo comienza con tus manos. Por favor, lávate las manos frecuentemente y si es posible, con una solución de alcohol.
With your elbows bent, please cover your nose and mouth if you sneeze or cough. If you're using tissues, dispose of them immediately.
Pour le visage, évitez de toucher les yeux, le nez et la bouche. Cela peut empêcher le virus de rentrer dans votre organisme.
In terms of social interaction, take a step back. Stay 1 meter distance minimum from everyone that coughs or sneezes.
If you feel unwell, stay home. In some countries, isolation might be advisable for healthy persons too. Please follow all instructions from your local health authority.
So please keep yourself informed at all times, follow these recommendations, and support the WHO in their efforts to tackle coronavirus. Together, we will win this difficult match.
Well, together we will win this difficult match. That's what the FIFA president says. But moving on to what Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has been praised by the World Health Organization over his statement in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Liverpool are currently on the verge of winning their first domestic title in 30 years, but Klopp nevertheless praised the decision to suspend English Premier League football. The German manager said in a statement, if it's a choice between football and the good of wider society, it's no contest. Really, it isn't.
That there are some things that are more important than football, then I think we realize that in this moment. So, and all what we need is time to find a solution for that. How can we win that time? With avoiding different situations. The problem with football games is if you are not in a stadium, then you are in closed rooms and watch it there, maybe together. I'm not sure what is better in this case, to be honest. I mean that. But whatever will be decided, we will respect, because we have all families, we have all parents, kids, friends, which we want to do well.
Well, deprived of the game, footballers are trying their hand at different things amid the coronavirus outbreak. Players try to fill the big void. Sergio Ramos working out in a home gym. These are pictures that were posted by these players on their social media platforms. Sergio Ramos showing why he's determined to stay fit. Alexis Sanchez there spending time along with his beloved dogs there, Atom and Humber, while Italian players taking the time out to mixing a cake, while few other players keeping fit by doing exercise. So, players trying out different things to stay fit, to stay in touch with what's happening there. But coming back to, Himanshu, when you look at this particular, players looking at different windows to stay fresh, to stay, very much in touch there enjoying nature. Does that also give players a welcome break, when you look at spending quality time with their loved ones?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of a
win-win situation.
I mean, it's a blessing in disguise because the kind of schedule they have, their back-to-back schedule, they have off the ground, on the ground. I think everything is shut down, so they can have a good time with the family. They can go around and explore what they could not. So I think they can, but my worry is that since they have deep pockets and they can afford it, people those who are attached to the industry of sports, those who are working to make living and to ends meet, it's going to be very difficult because if we see the kind of revenue loss, the revenue loss which comes to these kind of event, we actually see the top levels, but we don't go down and see that the people at the rock bottom, those who actually make hard work to make these events successful, is something which we have to worry about. And times to come, either, I wish one of these sports people, those who are sitting at that, would donate some kind of money out of their earnings for and protect those people, those who actually do daily kind of a work to sustain all these sporting properties. I think that should be a move I would like to see from all these big players, including IPL players.
Well, that could be the big move, that could be the game changer when you decide to do something for the sport, and especially people who are associated with the sports. Many people who earn their livelihood, being associated with these leagues. Surely a moment to sit back and ponder what could be done for them. Well, moving ahead now to our last segment, that's the Tokyo Summer Games. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe there clearly under pressure as he begins to shift his messaging on the Tokyo Olympics in a sign he may have accepted that the deadly coronavirus will make it necessary to postpone the event planned to start in June. Abe and his cabinet, as well as the organizers and Tokyo governor, had until days ago been unanimous in insisting the games would be staged as scheduled. But following a G7 leaders video conference on the coronavirus on Monday, Abe avoided comment on the timing of the event.
オリンピックについては、人類が
In regard to the Olympics, we aim to hold the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics in a complete way as proof that mankind can defeat the new coronavirus. And I have received support from G7. This fight against the coronavirus is extremely tough, but we agreed that we can win if the G7 and the international community work together with solidarity.
国際社会で共に、戦っていけばですね、必ず打ち勝つことができると。そういう認識で一致ができたとこう考えています。
Well, Shinzo Abe clearly feeling the heat. Shimon, looking at the way now test events are all getting deferred. How do players look at Tokyo Olympics and prepare? Does this become a very difficult situation for players? Players who have not qualified, players who look at qualifying windows.
Yeah, it's been very difficult. This complete situation have landed the shooters especially and the other Olympic athletes in a very tight spot. There was still some leading athletes trying to get the tickets for Olympics, but with the cancellations happening, it's a big blow to them.
Himanshu, one quick word. Do you see Olympics taking place on scheduled time, or do you see it missing the bus and being delayed?
I think what the confidence with the Japanese Prime Minister, and I don't think it is a very big thing that the contingents from the country can be sensitized and the people there can be sanitized. I think the Olympics must go on.
Okay, Prakhar, your final word from you. Do you see a social media headache now, considering the way things are playing out in this particular Olympics, now clearly feeling the heat from all quarters?
Japanese Prime Minister is certainly feeling the heat, as you have already said. So that we have little deadline, little till April we can play with, we can see how to wait and watch. But then everything depends. And a lot of international associations have said that they will take the points or they will other methods to find out for the athletes to qualify.
Well, you'll have to find newer ways for helping the athletes to qualify. Well, that's all we have time for in this special edition. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us in the studios. Remember, you got to be careful to sanitize and not sensationalize. That's the message that one needs to carry forward from this particular games. Thanks for watching. Have a safe and wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.